now. Whoa, look at that. We're live. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And there we go. Here you go. Do your Ace Attorney thing. Our Ace Attorney comrade. Your Ace Attorney, I chime in on things. Like how apparently everyone suffered from massive amounts of brain damage during the last case. Yep. I mean, I'll admit, pretty much all of us were drugged, except for the dead guy and the Russian lady. And the... Yeah, and the sailors. The sailors. But I maintain my statement. Alrighty. The Adventure of the Runaway Room. This one is supposed to be one of the best ones aside from the final one, Case 5. If it sucks, still, we'll probably call it here. But this is supposed to be like one of the highlights.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter.
You know, it's London. Of course, it's a bitter winter. Every time there is bitter.
In a carriage.
Oh, murder in a carriage.
London fog in the dead of night.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah,
murder in a carriage. Like, I don't know. Getting dragged away and then actually lighting the entire carriage on fire and then chucking the person you're trying to save out of the carriage onto the ground where they get body slammed and killed. Theoretically, purely hypothetical. Not at all related to what we've done.
A horrendous manner.
I swear, if I get... do you know what I'm referencing? Yes, our Strahd campaign. Yeah, I was just making sure. I swear, if this one involves us getting framed for murder a third time, I'm going to quit. Just, well, that's the streak. Listen, there's only so many times I can accept being accused of murder in a single game. Yeah, but Alex, this time, you were on a carriage behind them, so clearly you Damn, I look like a subway conductor.
Amazing. Is this really?
Okay, you know who you look like?
A railway station?
Yeah, I look like one of the subway bosses, like Ingo or the other one.
I mean, I guess that's what I said. Such an enormous building before. And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
You give me big vibes of the other person you could get from SMT3. It was Dante or the Japanese person. Jesus Christ, that is concerning. That's what I was like. He just... I mean, like, I get it. It's traditional Japanese garb, but like, what the fuck? Raito Kuzunoa.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
Ooh, it's from some other game.
Capital of Great Britain.
Oh, he was from one of the previous games. And, Devil Summoner versus Kunoa versus the Soulless Army.
In that case,
so he was from one of the spin-offs.
Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure.
Oh yeah, spot of teeth. Oh yeah, all British.
I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay.
It's England. How am I supposed to enjoy my stay?
To the center of
the world. I'm gonna get accused of murder a third time.
London.
London. You're in a carriage, Alex. Therefore, you were the murderer. God damn it. Is this the Supreme Court? I hope not. Can you... I mean, that's a pretty cool place to have an office. Are we inside Big Ben? What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. Looks like a fortress. I mean, you're not wrong. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only been built in a few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. I get you, but like, maybe don't use such uncharitable language. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. He has 2 titles. I mean, I guess Justice is the 3rd title. He has 3 titles. Just right over here. Because I get a little bit of feedback. You know what the feedback's from? Headphones. Not from the headphones. It's from the lack of them. Because
this to make a sound. You know what's right next to this?
I'm dumb.
You... Help, you're in the way, I'm sorry.
Be gone, Woofles, be gone.
What?
Nothing.
I'm just trying to figure out a way to plug this stupid thing in.
Susato's looking at your hands. Raise up hands. Oh my god, I don't have manacles on anymore.
Where is this thing?
We were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. You know, you could just always just like turn that sound off and we can listen to it via your computer, right?
If I listen to it via the computer, then they're also gonna get the feedback from the computer, and then...
No, I mean like headphones, computer.
What? Everything goes through this. This is purely a vessel to record. Nothing is actually going on that.
No, but I mean if this sound is off on this, does the computer not still hear the sound? Am I dumb?
The computer would still hear it, but like you don't hear anything on the computer. It records the sound.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't actually...
I thought this was the broadcast as well as the... I mean, I know it is, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, Cosmo's dead. Except he isn't.
We don't know that.
As envoys to report the news of Cosmo-sama's death. Yes, and having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Cosmo's place as a law student. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it's the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers, so the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. See, it's the only way to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch.
Here you go.
Ah, good morning. I'm sorry for keeping you.
So you should be able to hear it. We shouldn't hear any feedback because... Yeah, so... Because I remember I messed up.
Holy Jesus, this man looks like a villain.
Yeah, because I also remember trying to plug it directly into the Switch, which then it does not pick up.
I trust you aren't too exhausted after
It's not picking up anyway. What the... Are you hearing it?
Yes.
Why the... What the higgity heck? Is anything... music is being played?
No. Wait.
Oh, okay. I was like, why isn't it working? Because nothing's being played. No sound is being made. That... Ah!
Oh no, he's 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Mael Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. I feel like a mouse under an elephant's foot. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. Ryanosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo.
Also, sup, Jen.
Oh, hey, Jen. Welcome to London. Meet the Supreme Chief Justice of the British Empire, Mael Strongheart.
It sounds just slightly off. Still. So I'm gonna try and figure out if I can deduce this. You can...
Do the dance of deduction.
Alright, I'm gonna deduce it for a second as I try and deduce why this still sounds wrong. It sounds less bad since this is purely like text-based and stuff.
Yes.
But it still just sounds a bit...
Welcome to London, the capital of the glorious British Empire. Ah, yes, thank you.
I'd recommend putting on pause for a second, because the first way of doing this is just making a whole new thing and seeing if that makes it any better. Because sometimes, for whatever reason, it freaks out with if this gets removed or that gets changed or whatever. Down. Shrink this thing. Let's put shut. There we go. Alright, you can give it another shot.
Converse. London. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? Oh, I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't even remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh. We had a wonderful view of some London streets from the carriage.
That sounds good. I don't know why, but sometimes it just freaks out and I have to remake the capture, even though nothing has changed. When I opened up right earlier, like getting all set up, for some reason it's still capturing it, but only the top corner of it, and I could not enlarge it. But imagine it was just capturing that.
The only part that matters. The top left quadrant of Susado's forehead.
I don't know. Anyway.
Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say I'm almost at a loss for words.
Also, Jen, Sherlock Holmes will 100% be in this, by the way, just so you know.
Unfortunately, I think he's going to be throughout the rest of the game.
And
maybe
the second
sequel.
one.
Yeah,
Yep.
I sort of figured.
He's on the cover. He's on the box art. He has shown up multiple times.
The city boasts trams, waves, piped water, and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded.
You know, you have to be wild. Just in a class.
Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato. Everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor until the smog rolls around.
Put alt tabbing back so you can get Twitch chat up. I mean, technically, you have it. There you go.
Okay.
Just so you can see it.
Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming Great Exhibition we'll be hosting here in London. Great Exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It'll be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and we will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Of course, it's to show up the French. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world, even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Ooh, don't tell them about Brexit. Perhaps it is in this fate, the progressive times, we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Speaking of which, Kazuya is dead. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for the study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. A Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. The news reached him before we even arrived. Oh my god.
Technology.
My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that that's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of your young lawyer means that the study tour can no longer proceed. If you would hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What did you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me, Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead, but without a lawyer from your country, there is nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan? Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Asogi. At least that's what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well at all. Just can't seem to find the right words to say to the man. Mr. Naruhodo. Ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I gonna say? If there was someone else from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's... It's me! It's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but no qualifications, you say, and yet you still claim to be a lawyer. I've acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. I had Kazuma to help me, and I wasn't the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Burya. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, but you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey has only just begun. Coming here on the study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance. That's all I'm asking. Please! 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. Perfectly judged appeal, I'd say. Which is a skill that would stand you good instead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to the trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Very well. Strongheart is odd. He really does feel like a villain in the making, but test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Ah, fuck. Well, I'm gonna fail. So, what form will the test take, exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today.
And you're the murderer.
No advocate has been appointed for the defense as of yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? He looks like a Fire Emblem villain. He kind of does.
I can see it. But, like, are they really gonna make the Supreme Court, like, judge the big villain? Or he's not the judge, but, you know, he's up in there in the Supreme Court. Are they really gonna be like, you're gonna take on the
Okay,
Supreme
I'm gonna
Court?
call this. In case 5, if we ever get to it, he will either be my prosecutorial opponent, be the murderer, or be the murdered. One of those three. If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes. Good question. I remember. Murder.
Oh, yeah.
I was correct.
It's a murder.
Murder. An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easier to say. But I should mention, just in case. If the defendant is found guilty, he will, of course, be sentenced to capital punishment. He'll be put to death. Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short sea-based introduction to British law? We can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I'm the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose.
Why didn't I
So the
think of
defendant
that?
may live or die depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. As you say, you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve.
That's a concerning statement.
What's the matter? You've fallen silent. What?
Just how far are you willing to go?
Well, because Kazuma was talking about having to fulfill some sort of obligation in Great Britain. And when I mentioned that, he's like, oh, ho, ho. You got all Dio Brando on.
No, it's just the how far are you willing to go. Oh boy, why?
I'm sorry, time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? Yeah, fuck it, I'll go.
I don't know the person.
Alright then, if I have to give you a decision now, my answer is... I can't do it. Can't get the words out. 15 seconds? Your decision making needs work. You want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, as expected, isn't it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. The conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance.
It's so over.
Damn.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the game.
It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, but resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Mr. Sato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable, and I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, a particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. The man dies at the end of the first act of an FE game. Yeah, he does kind of look like a Jagan.
Papa, no.
I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 12 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. You leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. But at this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. That's awful. But that is the truth. Ah, I see we haven't quite gotten to the point of court-appointed lawyers here. I mean, technically we are a court-appointed lawyer, but please don't expect me to answer every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that's you. Damn. So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it's purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves.
So we are defending the dude?
He's gone. The Old Bailey. I think we're going to end up fighting for him because if we lose, he was going to die anyway, and if we win, he doesn't die anyway.
Trying with a man's life, but also like...
If he literally doesn't have anyone else. We're gonna do this, Mr. Naruhodo. We need to leave at once. Alright.
What to do?
Miss Susato, can I just ask you... Oh no. Careful. From this position, I can perform a Susato takedown in an instant. I know. Mr. Naruhodo, you heard Lord Strongheart. The trial starts imminently. If I need to throw you, I will. You know, you could just say, I think we should hurry to the courtroom. If you need to ask me anything, you'd better wait until we're at the Old Bailey. The Old Bailey sounds like a pub down in ye old London town, you know? She's so bossy, yes. I think that's why people like her. Oh, thank goodness we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. That's what we get for this cobblestone streets. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Herlock Sholmes stories, and it worked quite perfectly. Well, today is February. Oh shit, we're playing this in chronological order.
Damn you right.
I'm not sure why you were so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here. But there's no sign of him at all. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. It literally looks like the one that we had over in Japan.
So the one from Japan isn't grand?
I think that's what they were implying, yes. Wow, this place gives me the same sense of foreboding that the Supreme Court in Japan did. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever's about to be sentenced. Feels like only yesterday I was the one about to be crushed.
Which time?
Yeah, I know, right?
I know one was in a corner.
Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir? Oh god. Holy Jesus. What are yous doing following me here? Tings are far desperate, aren't they? I feel like I gotta rattle off like a Jacksepticeye, you know.
Top of the morning to you, laddies.
Sorry. Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself. So I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, and all the while in a strange, faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet. No. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. Ha! 1,000 guineas. Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? 'Tis nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day?
That's what we should be asking.
Well, even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah! Hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you, no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh. To be honest, it is a little embarrassing. The trial's about to begin, you see. It's for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you gotta do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start with me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. This man apparently has the wealth to buy London 2 or 3 times over. He does look like a leprechaun. And yet he couldn't buy a lawyer. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me? One of London's biggest names? No, sorry, we've only just arrived in the city, you see. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Well, just next to Hyde Park in the center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, park? What? It is called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. Suppish? Oh, suspicious. Okay, gotcha. I misread.
Sussy boppin'.
Yes, I donated it to the city, I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its queer old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. Ah, but now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you?
So many things.
Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo. Perhaps now would be a time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I saying after you... what was I after saying, you daft idiot? I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did. That's the only explanation. Well, exactly. Yes, exactly. What now? Well, like you said, if you have all this money, but you don't have anyone to represent you in court, there's no other logical conclusion than you're guilty of the charges. Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to imply that. Well, you call a spade in the East, so you do. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any offense. I still can't express myself very well in English, you see. And I'm never sure what's acceptable to say and what isn't, so... Is that so? Because you sounded fluent enough when you were telling me what a blackguard is. Or what a blackguard I must be. I'm terribly sorry. I can't say I blame you for thinking it, fella. It is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? The Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Baruch von Zykes. He's the prosecutor.
Like Zykes.
Like Zykes. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zykes stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What?
No one's been able to beat him.
Yeah. So it's reached a desperate situation where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness. Lord Baruch von Zykes. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? The defendant's been summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial's about to begin. His counsel? Oh, that'd be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, fella, don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here. I'd made up me mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? 'Tis no accident, I can assure you of that. 'Tis fate. I mean, so don't get cold feet now, please. Magnus McGilded. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom, armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something Cosmo wouldn't have allowed to happen. Counsel defer to the defense. What are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you'll lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. Alright, let's see what this British court looks like. I wonder if the guy is going to look at, if he's going to look like the Grim Reaper.
Depends on your interpretation of the Grim Reaper.
This doesn't look ominous at all. I love the low poly fire though. Oh shit, there's a jury now.
Yeah,
I know.
Isn't that the entire point of this special version of the game, is that there's a jury? A jury
Feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. Shit, do we steal Kazuma's sword?
Yeah.
May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Oh shit, he looks like fucking Dracula.
I don't know, looks more like Santa to me.
That's true. We got Santa, Dracula, and the Lucky Charms leprechaun. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. Stealing from a dead man for shame, I agree. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English? Huh? Oh, yes, of course. Sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried. Those eyes please me. Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. He looks like that one attorney from the OG games. I'm assuming you're talking Manfred von Karma.
Von Karma, no.
To me, he looks like the vampire daddy from the Daddy Dating Simulator. You know who I'm talking about. Now, Mr. McGilded. Yes, my lord? You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You can be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? I've always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fellow is a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the danger to yourself and give to those less fortunate a fair chance?
No, that's literally like the opposite of
I'd like to think that their acts of chivalry to do the great British Empire proud. Listen to Mr. McGilded, what a fine gentleman it has in him. Did you hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please, may we please go play in McGilded Park? This is not the appropriate place to bring your child.
Where is Alex? Where is the appropriate place?
Stiff upper lip and all that jazz, yeah, you're right. Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded. Most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need to hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed? Okay, so, like, 4 of them look like they're, like, would rather not be here. One looks like he's the actual murderer, and the one on the right is just some old grandma who's knitting.
Are you allowed to bring a knife into court?
Juror number 1. Yes, my lord. If the task is to send the rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready.
I'm scared.
Juror number 2. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish properly. Naturally, I agree. Juror number 3. Any criminals here will soon be wishing that they never set eyes on me. Oh, he's drinking in court. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. If it's a... I bet it's a letter opener, not a knife. Here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judges pass his sentences according to the law, but the jurors determine the guilt based on common sense. The defendant is ultimately judged by 2 completely different points of view. How exactly do jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes. I understand that you claim that it's probably a letter opener, but it looks like a switchblade.
Even if it's a letter opener, that can still kill someone. Why is that just allowed
My
in
lord.
court?
It's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So, what brings you back? Is there some change of circumstance which the court should be aware? Oh, he has got a sword as well.
Everybody's got something.
If I leave that to your imagination, my lord. So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose the day of all days to come back? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo. As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is the case of overwhelming simplicity. I must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. And the incident took place in the late evening. 3 days passed. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry, Thrice... He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. Jesus Christ!
That looks a lot like the letter opener, I'm just saying.
The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus on the service on the streets of London at the time. The dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard.
They're gonna get updated.
Thank you, counsel. I shall accept it and the photograph as evidence. The report prepared by Scotland Yard, it gives the cause of death as internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound to the abdomen. And a crime scene photograph. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McIlden's gloves had blood on them. Ah, that's not looking too good for you there, buddy. Yes, I'll accept these as evidence as well. How did I get into this? I'm backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2. Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McIlden. I like how only 3 of the jurors gave exclamatory responses. The 2 that did it were the old grandma who's just knitting and the drunk. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McIlden. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening, but whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lilton is, so it is. When I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in me life. Now I ask of yous, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? Wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. The blood got into the gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is the only beginning. Oh god. There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. One of the jurors is just fucking hammering at her typewriter. Order! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage. There were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused.
Yeah, because he's like a vampire.
Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we'll hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Does the defense not get to make an opening statement? Bailiff, bring in the witnesses at once. Jesus Christ. Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is... well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive the omnibus on the East End. The man looks a little cold. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I, make hats for gents. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to an aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Very well, then. Let's proceed to your formal testimonies. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Witness testimony. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sitting next to each other inside the bus. Then, out of the blue, the accused reached over and plunged a knife into his guts. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too.
So they're sitting next to each other, but then he stabbed him dead on instead of like.
No, they were sitting like
across.
figure.
You
Yeah,
said
like,
next to each other. So I'm not sure if they mean or across from each other. It's next
I
to
also
each other.
don't know where
stab
the
doesn't
two
make sense.
witnesses, other than the bus driver, were in relation to all this. Because they said there's only 2 people on the bus.
Oh, they're probably on the bus.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel? Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those 2 witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage.
It's gonna be like they're inside the carriage too. Or that's just really awkward.
How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the East Island nations were a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you ever traveled in an omnibus?
I got here today.
Well, no. We, only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of the crime, that is. What? What do you mean? The actual scene? The carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you want... Is he gonna bring the bus into the fucking courtroom? Yes. The omnibus in which the bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building. Here... what? The entire carriage? Bailiff? Bring forth the stricken omnibus. Holy shit. Sure, why not? So it's an omnibus. The omnibus. How'd they fit it through the doors?
Carefully.
True. I like how Jen asked the exact same question as I. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Everyone and their knows. But the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top.
Yeah, that still answers questions.
And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. Okay. Ah. The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats of the omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. That makes sense. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence.
So you sat on the roof to get the better
That
view,
is the
and then you
prosecution.
spent your time using the skylight to look down into the.
Yeah, that's
Carriage.
a part that I have some
I
questions
don't
about.
I don't know if that's like a big clue or if it's just these people are just stupid.
They lived in London. Clearly they don't care about the sights. Very well, I see no reason why not. The omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I can help myself by giving it a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with proceedings, then. Your cross-examination, counsel?
It's objection or something. I don't know.
Knife. Face. Alright, let's...
Let's go back to the picture for a second. Is that guy bleeding from his ear? Like, there's something by his ear that just... I don't know if it's just like...
I think it's just a shadow.
Okay, because I was like, is that like blood? Did he get stabbed from behind as well? That's blood.
This is definitely blood, isn't it? Not the most pleasant sight to be confronted with on our first day in London. Well, nothing will come of grumbling now. No. By the way, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Ah, pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really.
Still, it would be something.
No, I agree with that question, though. Alright, let's look at the bus. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? I love that canonically this is happening in the courtroom. Heap, heap blood.
Yes.
That's blood that's soaked into the seat. The victim's obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that, I wonder? Well, it was after dark, and there was a lamp on in here, so it's possible the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. Ah, that's a poster for the great exhibition that's due to start 6 months from now. Yeah, I agree, this is wild, Jen. There's a lot of focus being drawn on the Crystal Tower. Ooh, the Crystal Tower. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. I don't suppose the notice counts separately. Nope. Okay. Oh, okay. Both of them are ads for the Great X. Wonder if we can pull that out. The seat has a handle, it seems. Ah! Quite impractical, but cool. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels, blankets, and horseshoeing tools. So it's a storage compartment for the coachman. Okay. Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage. Well, I don't imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. I don't know, it feels like there should be something in there, you know what I mean?
Like a knife.
Alright.
Like the murder weapon.
Skylight. It's quite large skylight, isn't it? Yes, quite large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. And there doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description. So I suppose it can't be opened from the inside, at least. Alright, let's go back outside. Into the gray void. So presumably this is where he sits. So this is the roof deck. You must have a wonderful view of London streets from up here. So people sit all the way up here on bitter winter nights with cold air rushing past them. They have to pay money to do so? Can't imagine how cold it must feel. That just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that's the real price you pay to stay out late. Alright, I don't think... That's just another view of the top seat. Yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's about all that we've can glean from this at this point in time. Alright, cross-examination. Pray, don't expect this nippity stray to understand the intricacies of British courts' cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus. Focus.
You know, if you just keep saying focus, eventually it'll focus, right?
Okay. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had a few customers.
Hold it! Tell me more.
Yes, I think it was sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh, yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes, it was ever so cold. Freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time? Is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, no. And there was no other passengers when the incident took place? No one alighted, for example? You're quite right of that, sir. No other passengers like that. No one. So nobody fled the scene of the crime. I have to say the boss insists on it running, that he does, every evening, the last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run. Yes, I spend that much at the pub on the way home, just trying to warm up again. Okay. Hold it! This is how every court trial is gonna go. Tell me more. And then you saw them through the skylight, on the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. There was a lamp on the inside, so I had a pretty good view. The two of them were wearing... Oh, interesting. 2 of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilded.
I can roll.
There's no room for doubt here. That's why he said, are you sure no one alighted? Meaning, ducked.
I can roll.
I really wish there was. Okay. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. Hold it! You actually saw the exact moment it happened? Didn't I already testify to that? Or are the fair dinkum hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Dog, they never have been. Oh no, I didn't mean that. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord! Oh, juror number 3, what's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me.
You're rich. Guilty.
There's no point in wasting any, listening to any more of that. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. Hold it. It's precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set up a good example to my fellow jurors. What is happening? Let me see. Ah yes, it seems that that's how the members of the jury get their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, let's do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. Fancy and impractical. Counselor for the defense, please continue with your cross. This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it. Hold it! He stabbed him, you say. And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right, sir. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. Ah, that did not help.
Wasn't it higher up? Wasn't life higher up, or maybe it's just...
The jury looked like they were even more convinced than my client did than they were before. Appears to have made everyone more dubious. Only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh yes, sir? Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief, yes, that's it. That's the very one, sir. I don't know if that means that they can revote. Yes, counsel, this is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial, the letter M, which seems oddly familiar. M for Magnus, perhaps. Or McGilded, possibly. Take your pick.
Maybe it's W.
It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Yes. Like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. God. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel.
Okay, that's at least the best way of putting it. I'm just like, this is clearly for him.
My lord, if you'll forgive the intrusion.
Oh, don't you dare.
Juror number 2. Go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish.
Okay, but why are we allowing a jury who just goes, this man is rich, therefore I'm voting against him?
Yeah, especially because the first thing is, you were all selected for your impartiality.
You're rich, you're getting out.
I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime.
That's the most concerning part. What if that is just the most impartial person you have?
I have painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in position to draw the only logical conclusion.
God, we've done like 2 things. Chill. Drunk
Not
could save
again.
us.
That's 4 out of 6 jury members who proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. But if this is the way the game is going to play out, I really don't like this mechanic. Because it used to be, you press everyone to see what extra evidence gets brought out and what extra testimony you can contradict. And then you go back and you target it. But if pressing them will just make them all vote guilty...
It has been like 2 minutes into
I'm
this
worried.
new case.
As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, then I saw it too. Right, fine.
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And by the passenger, obviously you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason. And the other passenger had the knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously you're referring to the accused.
There's so many issues with that statement.
And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What?
So many issues with that.
Yeah, we're gonna
On
press
the
it. We're gonna
floor.
present the evidence. My lord, I wish to speak. God damn it. The master of the London Guild of Coachmen. The idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. I wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say. God, I know. Please just keep an open mind to it alone. Gee up now, Silver Blaze. The finish line is in sight.
Old Granny here, I really hope.
Grandma.
Grandma.
Beppo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Grandma!
Grandma! Stay strong, Grandma. Don't be swayed by their lies.
What the actual fuck with the jury members? Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear. What can I do for you? You have now heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the... Yep. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know.
Grandma, hold on.
Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day and sit on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. The Gilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He always is doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the Gilded Public Library and borrow some more books?
Shut up, child.
How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know what kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magic McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, so... Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm not sure I can say that. That's a slang for a Jewish person.
Ah.
One with the very darkest of souls. Stone the Crows. McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything that they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Oh, it's getting racist in here. I mean, it is the early British Empire. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So is this thought not cross your mind?
Or something like.
Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its own entirety not have a carriage of his own? You know, that's a valid question. What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accursed Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known, the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debts. Oh, this is not...
But then, what benefit do you get of murdering a man?
If he's not going to get his money back, I guess it's a warning not to cross him. Yeah, I don't know. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. Thank you, Susato. If I might add something briefly. Yes, Susato. You claim the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded, but where's the evidence to support your claim?
They're just not bring anything into these courts.
It was the early British Empire.
Swords and
Him
wine.
bringing in fancy bottle of wine, is slightly less audacious than the person bringing a fucking knife to the jury bench.
And then just going, hey, by the way...
Aha, there it is. Lord Van Zyke's hollowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. Oh.
A compliment?
As a judicial assistant to the defense, I am simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You'll find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Ow. Allow me to present the ledger as evidence.
Present everything at once, my dude.
Yeah, he's gonna update the autopsy report later.
I swear to God, if we get
Pray
updated...
forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice and a toast to the enigmatic East all the same. Marvelous toast, Counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. First of all. I just don't really like blades. Says the man with the sword on his hip.
What if it's just the sheath?
That doesn't sound like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. That's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Oh, it's still covered in blood. That looks like a lot of blood. An Englishman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood.
Blood is
Do you
blood.
think it wouldn't? Sorry, it was just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust.
Yes, this floor is made of floor.
An ornate letter M, undeniably Magnus McGilded's initial. It's beautifully gilded, too. Must be very valuable, I should think. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. When you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. W? Yes, it's one of those, you know, turnabout cases, I'm sure. The phrase turnabout was supposed to be a phrase in legalese when you make it shift from one perspective to another, and it was the title of every single Phoenix Wright case. It was a turnabout something. Oh, well, that idea was quickly quashed. Alright. Let's look at the debtor's ledger. This portfolio must contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Oh dear, do you really think we ought to look inside? Well, it's not as though we know any of the London gentry personally, is it? Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you, we will not find Mr. Scholl's name inside. Well, let's see what we can find. Ah, yes. These are words. Gosh, it's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Well, I suppose they're probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Oh, okay, they meant not gentlemen as in, like, not upper class. I thought he meant, like, ah, yes, some people in this country are ladies, too. Ah, goodness. What is it?
The name of my game?
Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? Oh. Bruce Fairplay, the witness. Oh, yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible that this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful. Just wanted to make sure there was nothing on the back. Okay. Sounds like a word that someone had just added to their vocabulary and wanted to use in every single thing. Yeah. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Oh, Granny looks angry. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. No, Granny, no! Still. Maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little bit more before I don't stand for this nonsense. That was it. The last juror's decision. Ah, according to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. However, the defense... God damn! All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement. Fuck the jury. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Me. Miss Usato, just tell me the one thing. Oh, yes. You were in the middle of saying something before? The footnote in your encyclopedia? However, the defense... What did it say? Oh yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. And the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. The fuck is that?
Oh, you have to go, if I remember correctly, from like
Oh, we have to convince all the jury.
go and say, yeah, but what about this?
Objection!
What about this?
Objection. A summation examination? From which century is this tome you have there been resurrected? Ah, fuck. Judging from the binding, I would say that that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato, the so-called summation examination? Oh, one moment, and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails? Typical Nipponese. Jesus Christ.
This man is just blatantly racist. And also a vampire.
Alright, Mr. Haruhudo, I think I understand. It seems under this procedure we'd be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. But that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefits, so rather, it fell out of use. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try this in this day and age. Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting?
What do you think we're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think? Summation examination. Sort of right. What?
No, just give up.
The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it can be vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness.
Madness?
Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Huh? Well, I'm not. There was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so, all members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. My lord, you're putting us on the spot.
Yes, that's the point.
This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I don't really hold it with all this justifying lark. That really seems to have thrown the jurors off. Seems none of them experienced this before. Alright then, let the summation examination begin. Wow, asking the jury members to justify?
I mean, one of them already did, and that's just, this guy has reached therefore.
Another one said, I stand with our union. One of them said, this bastard's actually a loan-sharking Jewish person.
Well, to be fair, the loan-sharking Jewish person was the prosecutor who said all that, and convinced the granny.
No, you know, Magnus is the loan shark, and he's accusing Magnus of being Jewish.
But the person who was doing the Jewish thing was the prosecutor.
Yeah.
I'm saying no person was saying, you are Jewish, therefore. It was the prosecutor saying, he's Jewish. And I'm like,
There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers, with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I've simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn a logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. That scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor beggars belief.
Wait, what's on the floor?
Well, there's also the issue of the driver has great memory, 20 pence, but each one is only 4 pence, which means that there's some money there.
Himself, clearly. You saying you don't charge yourself in a taxi?
Alright, what do you want? According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. What am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about. Law. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down. We need to tear them apart. Let's listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. Okay. Alright, so we know which ones.
The first of them.
I mean, yeah, I have beef with that one too, but...
Because it's also the stabbed him like this, and then, stabbed him in the chest and he was on the floor.
But he was not there.
Not there, and who...
I'm going after the
chest
pence
once.
one. I'm going after the fares.
That's fair.
I ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord. Just love the one guy off to the left.
Objection!
2 statements clearly contradict each other. What have I said? According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus at that night in question, and according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo took 20 pence in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence. And it is a fair and convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it adds a glaring discrepancy in the facts. Why, man, why? 4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. Exactly as I said, so there's a 5th man in the carriage. Man. By 4 pence, in fact, or precisely 1 person's fare. Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. Good gracious.
He has a wig.
This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword. That figures your coachman's claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy.
Fight.
I like that isn't even the people that I pit against each other. Mr. Guildmaster, I think you might ought to consider this. If the trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus. Alright, then how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end, huh? Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire into the innocent side to set us the scales. Now hold your horses there, coachman. We are all in agreement. Why do you have to go and... Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo.
I know Peppa. I know Peppa.
This is all very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same.
How much fire do they launch?
I love how it always arcs perfectly into the thing. For the love of Mike. Who's Mike? Not
No,
you as
Mike.
well. Penny can be a difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters.
Oh, now you're financial
Oh,
expert.
really?
too.
I, for one, think it's the only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. There's something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Alright.
I'm going with the side versus stabbed in the chest on the ground or whatever. Grandma and the one dude.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too. Okay, I actually kind of like this. It's obnoxious, but like... Okay, so let me read this again. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it could not have... It has to be. We haven't changed that assertion. Stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen. The scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor. Bop, bop. Bop.
Objection!
Suck it, Grandma. No, Grandma! These 2 statements are completely contradictory. What? Explain, counsel. Post haste. Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. She's lying to us. She said she was knitting mittens for her
She's
grandson.
already done that. Mittens aren't that deep.
What is this? What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? You'll use the word claptrap, but you don't know what contradictory means. We've heard from more than one witness, but they all allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3. What? Can't you see that I'm busy here? You got this knife stuck. How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Huh, want to test me, do you? Like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. It's just a prim bank I said. Yes, it was Mr. Fairplay's testimony. Quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh? Is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it's like this. He stabbed the poor man after he collapsed onto the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, and he stabbed the poor man after he collapsed on the floor. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches, what a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet. But what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know about the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen all in good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. You
Hell
go,
yeah,
Grandma.
Grandma.
The scales. I don't believe it. Hold it. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all.
Ah,
I
more
love
racism.
the amount of racism in this case so far. Jesus Christ.
Listen, I need a wand to do magic, I only have a katana.
If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Doc Jinx.
Listen, I read that
Huh?
note a long time ago.
What exactly
Now
is
it's
the
purple.
problem? What is it of the 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say that The Shylock did stab the victim as he sat next to him on the omnibus. This young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor and then the Shylock stabbed him again. The old lady saw him do it. What was to say it didn't happen like that, huh? Who are you calling a dandy, sir? Why, I should take the knife to you. Who are you calling old? Why, I should take this needle, sir. Grandma's gonna kill someone. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the two witnesses see two different moments of the same crime? It's out of the question. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman.
Only one stab wound.
Only one stab wound, and the knife was still in it. Are you suggesting it's impossible? It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How could you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. Sure. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof.
Take that!
A clear piece of evidence. Well, Mr. Foreman? Do you know what they say about me, young man? They say I've got no powers of persuasion. Oh, I see. Sorry to hear that. But no one will need persuading about this. You're even worse than me. Was the photo not the evidence? Oh, maybe it's the gloves, because there's only one blood stain. Okay, it's gotta be the gloves.
Take that!
The fuck?
And it have to be the omnibus?
Maybe it's the autopsy report.
Oh. What was the autopsy report even say it happens? Oh well.
Single stab wound.
Take
Fucking
that!
stupid. I was trying to go so big-brained on this. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means the witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times.
How?
Alright, I concede defeat.
How much effort did he put into stabbing that knife?
Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. Move on.
Well, temporarily.
What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. Well, we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if this chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off of his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in quite a remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examinations flipped the balance of the scales of justice. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate. The trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue the pursuit of the truth.
They're really about really about murder.
So, Lord Van Zykes, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please. Oh, he's going back for round 2. Some viscous ass wine. Oh my god, he just smashed his chalice. Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes. Or is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Damn. Well, no matter. There's nothing so hard to prove as self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Oh shit, he's gotten rid of his cape. Bring forth the witnesses once more. Witnesses? I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Oh yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course I heard it. Oh yes, sir. I heard it. You, sir, on the end. The coachman. I believe it's, Beppo? Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you'll be found guilty of perjury. Damn, this is the first time that this has ever been mentioned in the series. You'd be advised to keep that in mind, sir. Oh, mio Dio. Dio Brando.
Yes, Brenda.
Okay, testify before the court again.
Alright, real question, who's Beppo's stand?
It's the omnibus. That's why it's here in the courtroom.
So I stand omnibus.
I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But, well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled with us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It was all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing the man. Everything I said before stands. Oh yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes? So... Oh
yes,
god, we're gonna get Beppo fired.
Beppo, stop lying, my dude.
Either he lied because there's a 5th passenger, or he lied because he overcharged them. The phantom 5th passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend has never existed. Confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cozenage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry.
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your family.
You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace. And your selfless actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. No, that figures.
Beppo, no.
Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? Well, I paid 5 pence too, sir. And I just told you that I did. A flat fare 5 pence across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the phantom killer you so desperately needed is gone. Dead and buried. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well.
Hold it!
I thought you were just... Wasn't he just absent-mindedly staring off into space when he saw the murder?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horror in the eyes of a man that moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moment Jen was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. And Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. It turned out to be significant. I heard the banker gent next to me to take a sharp intake of breath. See, that's when I looked through the grass. That's when I saw the horrible blade poking out from his belly all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating.
Ah! Ah! Oh.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? Bothering me before, this was. For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering. Anyway, there was only 2 of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a 5th passenger. What's with everybody and missing people? Each one of these cases has had a phantom person or object that has...
Oh, guys, did a cat sneak in? Was it the snake?
Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. Oh yes, he stabbed him. I think so, yes. I'm curious about that one. Earlier you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Oh yes, that's right. How? Victim was on the floor and described by the assailant holding the knife in an ice-pick grip. I suppose I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. Beppo is just fucking lying left and right. I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. That's when I turned around, yes. I saw it through the skylight. A gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding his handle was the famous man, yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Truth! Excuse me!
No subtle tells,
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Huh? Are you asking me or telling me? You've just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed. Are you asking me or... he didn't really see... What are the chances of that? No chance. Goad him into it. Well, it's a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Goad him... Peeping. I'm a respectable city banker, I have you know. I know what I saw. I remember it clear as a Ballarat day. It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me if I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after the butcher stabbed the man?
Hand?
Hold it!
Blood-soaked? Well, perhaps soaked is laying it on thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. You saw that from the roof through the skylight? Well, the skylight's reasonably large, so I had a pretty good view. There was a little lamp under the carriage as well. I'm not quite sure what I saw. Yep. Yes, I understand that I need to present evidence. Yeah, just shut up, Susato. Stop trying to gaslight
Yeah, you're careful with attention.
Yes, I know. Alright. but there's only 6 pieces of testimony. So I have to press him on this using that.
Objection!
Blood soaked. Hands? Well, I admit soak might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but there's more than a little peculiar. But here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh yes, right. There certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right hand. Is he gonna eat his cane? In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. But no, that can't be right. So you're a liar here then. Get him, Granny. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, what was your entire testimony under question? You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? Well...
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands, it was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
Objection. No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker, for Pete's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't provocate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? We had some evidence to explain why he might be lying. I have evidence to explain why he's lying. My lord. Yes, counsel? The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Very well. I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates the motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded. Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion. The point is, among the names of the debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? No, well, it's barely worth being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of the murder. What would become of your debt in that case? These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between 2 individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts that would be owed to him would be annulled. Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw, in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant?
I'm gonna take that as a yes. I'm gonna take your screams as a yes.
Order, order, order. Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment at the time in which the defendant is alleged to have thrust the knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilded's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which here are evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir? Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself, as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one.
Well, it couldn't have been our guy, because
Yeah.
our guy's gloves.
It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yarsh. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly, at least. Yes, we might finally have a chance to turn things around here. What the witnesses really saw. There was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with blood on them. I didn't actually see anything myself, no, not until I heard the scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside the carriage, or we would have all seen.
I mean, it was a very convenient place for you to hide yourself that was directly across from the person. And with, you know, what's-his-face being asleep, it'd be very easy to stab and then punch.
There was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. And that much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witnesses' accounts. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well, your cross-examination, please. Time to press every single statement. Yes, yes.
Hold it!
No, the evidence tells us otherwise. We have the gloves the defendant was wearing on the night in question in the court record. I'm well aware of that, sir, but nevertheless, I know what I saw and I stand by it. The man had blood on both hands. Your reasoning is dire. One hand or two, the salient point remains unchanged. Minutes after the grim crime, the victim's blood dripped guiltily from the accused's fingers. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see what transpired.
Hold it! If that matters, yeah.
Don't try to downplay this. Whether or not you saw the exact moment of the crime, it's a matter of fundamental importance, as you well know. For crying out loud, we all know that no one else could possibly have done it. I was just trying to save us all some time. You have a loan of 20 guineas outstanding with the defendant, do you not? Had you hoped to release yourself from that financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty? That's not entirely not what I was hoping for. I just lost a guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the Derby, that's all. I was gonna win it all back. There's a fixture this weekend, that's a sure thing. No one bats an eye if I borrow a little spending money for the weekend. I think you may have revealed rather more about your character than you bargained for, sir. The witness's scruples are not entirely here. Proceed to the next witness. Is that really how it's supposed to work? Would you be so kind as to look up how much a guinea is worth?
Hold it!
You definitely saw that too, blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilder's gloves had any signs of blood on him. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, and I looked down and saw Mr. McGilder sitting beside the other fellow. I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves? That's correct, sir, and I saw the blood on both of his hands quite clearly. It's true that the dark-colored stain on the leather gloves would have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused that night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGilder's gloves' hands.
shillings, and in today's money, 1 guinea is worth roughly $400.
So 20 guineas is $8,000.
Roughly. They did say that slightly changed because of the amount of gold in a guinea, so it's a little bit higher today than it would be at the time. But you're still looking at a couple thousand.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. And you
For
bet it
both.
all on the ponies.
It's a little spending money for the weekend. Or take a loan of a couple thousand for some spending money on the weekend.
Wouldn't you agree, sir? I know what you're insinuating, but I certainly wasn't making up stories. Still to say you saw nothing isn't right either, is it? No, sir, I saw nothing at all. Mr. Beppo, you were driving your horses. At the very least, you must have enjoyed a good view of London streets, no? What the fuck kind of cross is this? Oh, please. You didn't even see that. It was so cold that night, you see, all I could do was keep from passing out. My head was fairly frozen solid. Sorry to say. It seemed prudent to avoid travel on the last omnibus service on London's cold winter nights. Beppo!
No, Peppo! Not my boy!
Hold it!
And everything you saw of the incident was through the skylight of the roof. That's right. It was a fiercely cold night. The glass wasn't frosted over. Oh yes, I remember I was shivering. It was so bitter. Which rather begs the question of why the pair of you were sitting on the roof deck in the first place. Well, I don't know about this young fellow, but I couldn't enter the cabin. Oh, why not? It was locked from the inside. I tried knocking, but no one opened the door. Oh good, the locked room mystery again.
Okay, so when the horse comes to a sudden stop.
The lock engages. That's right, and it's a public service. It's a public bus service, for pity's sake. That's not what I call fair play. Yes, I had exactly the same experience. I tried knocking, but the gent inside just gestured at me to clear off. So I had no choice but to climb up on the roof deck and look down longingly at the warm cabin below. Well, I can assure you I wasn't just looking down. It was glaring, long and hard. And that's precisely why I can tell you with absolute confidence that if there was anyone else at all in that cabin, I would have noticed. Unequivocal, I'd say. They might not have been able to see everything. Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus. I like that we just keep moving the omnibus aside and bringing it back into focus when necessary.
I mean, it's not that hard. It's on
That's
wheels.
right, yes. In that case, there is a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really?
Oh god.
Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger enclosed in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Objection. Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. Very well, I will uphold the prosecution's demand. Where exactly in the omnibus are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger would have been situated? You...
That side, or would it be the other side, because if you look at where the skylight is, straight down from there.
Yeah, because when they showed images, they were sitting like this, facing the
Oh,
people in
right,
the seats.
because they're looking downward at an angle.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seats in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin, which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight, as I've drawn here. That's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting are obscured from view. In other words, someone had been sitting on that seat. It's quite possible his witnesses would have been completely unaware of it. We did some fucking trigonometry on this bitch.
Yeah. A squared plus
It's
B
quite
squared.
possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity.
Just checking. Has the prosecution done anything besides just tell us to shut up?
Pretty much. No.
Is that all? Do you actually go into...
And make some very persuasive arguments of the jury. That's about it.
You
I
mean some
concur with the
very racist-
prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. I cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you're able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Oh, fuck. We're just gonna do a quick save.
Oh, it's because it's a legend.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this one goes, and then...
We'll see if we fail. If we fail, we'll call it. If not, we'll find out.
I honestly don't know. Who could have been... Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? Sure, I have an inkling. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name.
You!
You're a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learned. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat.
Is this third class?
I think so, yeah.
Over the course of like an hour in the trial? It was my part.
I feel like it's gotta be McGilded.
McGilded sitting across.
Take that!
That hand roll to the point was wow, yeah. Passenger you didn't see would have to have been Mr. the accused.
McGilded.
McGilded. What are you talking about, counsel? Name of the defendant.
That's why they have the blood on both
Objection!
hands. How many
If I
glasses?
desecrate this chamber by smashing my hallowed chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Sykes.
Dude.
People talk of these tiny island nations to the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own, but I see that they use terms ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand.
Dude, just read.
When
What
the
is
bloody
your
scene
character?
unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's very the premise on which the case was built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claim that there was blood on both hands of the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the gory remains.
Objection!
The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimony remains unchanged. The goblet that he keeps eating or crushing is hallowed.
Only his third glass.
It had wine in it. Yes, it's hallowed because it's the blood of Christ given for us. I learned this in church.
Or
As they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. There was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we've yet to identify. The victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
I pull out the black light thing.
Alright, and who was this third party? I don't know! Obviously the true culprit.
Who's the third party? Well, obviously the
Hallowed
murderer.
be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy van will be done. What are you
Objection!
postulating? The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witnesses have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
But when elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. And the tops of their heads were obscured by the roof, but I could see the rest of them. Yes, that's right. Both gents were most certainly hatted. Hatters do tend to notice such things, sir. And what particular styles of the hat were the two gentlemen sporting, Mr. First?
I couldn't say.
I'm afraid I don't remember. Then you call yourself a hatter. The style of the hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused, Mr. McGilded, would have undoubtedly offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you are proposing an even more preposterous explanation.
I was asleep.
That the accused failed to even notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled.
I was asleep.
Yeah, I know. He was eepy.
Oh my god, we know that he was asleep. That was like the one thing he said was, oh yeah, I was asleep at the time.
There is clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects to your my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will already have made a false statement to the police. He was a sleeping boy. But if there is some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilding is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out that the man has been withholding information, you can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord? Of course we're asking him to demand to testify. He's so rich but doesn't have his own carriage. I agree.
Listen, sometimes you have to interact with the common folk. How do you think he gets more deals?
The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand. Huh. In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury. Yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out here, I say. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony.
Thank you.
When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things at the guild. Oh my god, wait. So I just realized, if there is another person in the passage,
That means that person
Beppo
did not pay.
let someone on for free.
Beppo, no.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite park has to say, oh yes, that would be lovely.
Also, she's telling me 180 on her
Yes,
racism.
the jury says the man must be heard.
How about Grandma 180 on her racism? Just man's a scoundrel. He says, oh yeah, I'd love to hear that.
He's a scoundrel, financial criminal, and worst of all, Jewish. No, Grandma, put your racism away.
I'm sorry, dearie. Sometime once in a while.
No, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear.
Next
Jury
week.
number 1 got a crush on jury number 6. Let the proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day? To be sure, I have, my lord. There are now 2 matters on which the court desires to hear from you. The first is whether or not there was a third party with you in the omnibus cabin as proposed by the defense. The second is that if such a person was indeed present, why did you conceal that fact from the police? Begad, no, 'tis not my nature to hide anything at all. Just answer the questions, please. The truth of the matter is, I've been desperate about this all along. Do I tell yous all, or keep me mouth shut? Tell us what, Mr. McGilded? The fine fellow represented me is absolutely right. In the carriage on the night with myself and the other man, there was another passenger. Aye, and 'twas me who helped the little urchin get away after it all happened. You... No, Magnus McGilded. That convenient excuse can't save you now. I'm truly sorry, so I am, Lord Van Sykes. I'm sure you'll be wanting to know why I said nothing when I was taken in by the police. I do be having a very good reason, I assure you. The boy threatened to stab me. Well, the little child was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and not in any way involved, you see. What? If the police had known the wee one was there, they'd have assumed she'd done it. They'd have hauled her into this here courtroom just like myself. I was only trying to spare her that. Young hearts and young minds are easily damaged, my lord.
I'm with Van Sykes here, just what?
And who was this child of whom you speak? That I don't know. You don't know. Aye, well, the wee ting just happened to be in the carriage that night. Never saw her before or since.
Objection!
We have absolutely no reason to believe this man. The prosecution calls for the witness's statement to be disregarded by the court. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. If the urchin isn't here in this courtroom as we speak, listening to the proceedings.
It's that girl who keeps wanting the...
What? Bang. Smoke. Fire. There's a fire. Look, someone's trying to get away. What is going on? Be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Secure the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. Bailiff, ensure the defendant is in custody and clear the courtroom.
They steal the omnibus. Can you imagine lighting a fire?
Hurriedly removed from the smoke-filled courtroom by the bailiff, amid scenes of chaos, with people stumbling over one another in their desperation to flee the chamber. We had no idea what was happening. All we knew is that, for the time being at least, the trial was suspended.
Well, that's a good place to call it.
I agree. I had a feeling we were hitting one of these points, which is why I wanted to press on.
I wasn't sure if the Gilded was going, like, if his
if it had gotten to the point where it said witness testimony, I was just gonna save it, but I was like, there's gotta be like...
But just, can you imagine lighting a fire in the courtroom and stealing the omnibus? What a power move.
Alrighty. And that will be the end of the stream for today. Somebody bombed the courtroom, I guess.
Hey, it was just a fire.
They did show the bang first.
Smoke bomb. Fire bomb. Molotov cocktail. Oh no, is that what the wine was for?
It was just a delayed reaction from the prosecutor throwing his fucking wine into the fire behind him.
Anyway.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, that's be it. I'll be back Tuesday with more P3 Reloaded.
I have to admit, I am enjoying this one much more than 2.
Yeah, 2 is just bad. Anyway.
Omnibus is also what they call combined volumes of manga. Yes, I do know that much.
Anyway, I'll see you on Tuesday.
2 did suck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.